Hey, it's another bright day on the passive pathway where purpose meets profit and freedom walks right alongside a bit of fun. I'm your host Nelson, aka Nelly, guiding you down this winding, often unpredictable, but always worthwhile road toward true financial freedom. Now, today's episode might make your wallet perk up and say, wait, what did he just say? Because we're diving into the art of building wealth without using your own money. Our guest is living proof that you don't need a trust fund or a winning lottery ticket to create a life of abundance. He's known as the No Money Millionaire, a man who went from rock bottom to real estate mogul, not by luck, but by leverage and laser-focused mindset. Let's welcome David Webb. David, welcome to the Passive Pathway podcast.
Nelly, thanks for having me.
David, I think every listener's ears just went cha-ching when they heard that title, the No Money Millionaire. You've got to tell us how that came to be.
You know, I think it was, I did my first $1 million deal with no money out of my pocket. And so we were joking and, I created the no money method. That was first. So, I was already, what I was doing, I was calling it the no money method. But then I did I did $1 million deal with not a dollar out of my pocket. And so, I started at that point. I was joking with I think it was my project manager, and I was telling him about the deal I just closed on. I told him, I said, I'm the No Money Millionaire, and from there it kind of stuck, and I've done multiple and a lot since. But that was what originally I was going to title the book, The No Money Method. But after that, I did the No Money Millionaire because I want to help other people become no money millionaires. You can become a millionaire without having to have money. And where I'm from, I come from Detroit, Michigan. I grew up in the inner city, very poor, a lot of poverty. And even myself included, none of us believed this was possible. It just seems so contradictory to anything that we learned growing up or anything like that. So that's why I wanted to put it out there, that you can do it. Because, I'm speaking to a lot of people from like where I'm from, and they don't have money. And they think that's holding them back. They think that's what's stopping them from being able to be real estate investors, from being able to do this. And that's what I wanted to address by putting the book out.
So humble beginnings. Beginnings.
Oh, definitely. Very much so.
Yeah. Now, before we jump into the deep end of today's questions, let's take a step back and set the stage. We talk a lot about financial freedom here on the Passive Pathway. But David's story isn't just about money. It's about resourcefulness, mindset, and learning to see possibility where most people only see problems. So if you've ever wondered how someone can build wealth starting from zero, no capital, no safety net, just courage and creativity, this next part is going to open your eyes. So let's dive in. Now, David, I just interrupted you a while ago. I'm sorry about that, but you were saying something.
Of course. We were talking about humble beginnings, single mother, welfare, I went to the inner city school district, so definitely was humble beginnings. And I know a lot of people that's from there that I try to help, and you mentioned mindset and resourcefulness. It's the mindset that's the toughest part to overcome. There's people that know me personally that see what I'm doing, know where I'm from, know where I'm at, and still don't believe they can do it because of their lack of resources or their lack of capital. And I keep trying to tell them it's their mindset. 100%. You have to know that you can do this. And that's what I try to hammer out in my book so much, because, I did in my past, I did 2 no money deals. And I still, even after I did those, my first 2 deals I ever did in real estate were both no money deals. And it didn't click in me. It still hadn't clicked that what I just did, because when it was time to get into real estate or, trying to get my next property, I thought I had to have the down payment, the taxes, the credit, everything. Even after doing 2 no money deals, it still hadn't changed in my mindset yet. And which is kind of crazy, but it's true. It's true. I had done 2 deals. I did my very first deal. I put it together. You're talking about resourcefulness. I walked into my father's house one day, and he said, "I'm going to sell the home." That's one I grew up in, went to school from, and
wow.
I said, "Well, I want to buy the house." And he actually laughed at me. I didn't have anything.
I'm sure he did.
He did. He laughed at me. I don't even think I had a job really at the time. And he was like, how are you going to buy it? And I said, well, I'm going to. I want to. And from there, I just picked up the telephone in the yellow pages, and I just called one lender after the next, after the next, after the next. I was just relentless. I was getting turned down one after the next. I probably went through 10, maybe more people saying no, laughing at me as well, saying, "Do you have a down payment? Do you have credit?" And I said, no, I don't have either of those. And they're like, well, no, why'd you waste our time? But I didn't stop. I continued, and I found that one person. And that one person said, well, let's see how we can make this work. And he was into creative structures, and he helped me. He helped lay it out. Well, you need these pieces. So how are you going to pull them together? What can we do? And so we worked it out. My father gifted equity to me for the down payment, covered that portion. I went to my brother. I said, hey, let's buy Dad's house, and you come in with your credit. And so he did. And so we went in, and, and out of that deal, my father originally wanted $80,000 for the house. But since we were buying it, my brother and I, he said, well, I'll give it to you guys for 60. Well, we still financed it for 80. So I went into this deal broke as could be, no job, no credit, no down payment. At closing, I came out with a home, and my brother and I split $20,000, $10,000 each. So, I had done it, but it hadn't clicked. I still thought, no, the mindset wasn't there. We get ingrained with these limiting beliefs that you have to have these structured pieces to be able to do it. And, after doing 2, I still didn't know that.
But I think, David, I think the thing that I see here is 2 things. One was, it's not in my question yet at this point in time, but this just came up because what you talked right now is your determination and being ambitious.
Yeah.
You were very determined because you had this inside charge in you, because you said, I want to buy my father's house. And then the other part said, I want to be ambitious. I really want to do this because I don't have anything right now, but I want to make it. I really want to make it. I want to prove to myself that I can do it. And you did.
Ambition's a huge part of it.
Yeah.
Ambition is what really led the way for the whole no money method, because like I said, I had done those 2. I did the second one. Another one was a seller finance. I came into that, borrowed $1,500 from somebody. That was all I needed to get it. And I did that one. Well, along the way, I had, put together all I could, and I ended up getting a building, my first apartments, my multifamily. And there was one that came up down the street that was available, and I wanted it so bad, because I knew it. I knew the area. I was full. I was turning people away, and I saw one just a few blocks down. And so I didn't have the capital. And at that point, again, the determination, I wanted that building so badly. I said, okay, but I knew by this time I had done so many different deals. I knew what my pieces were. And so then I was like, all right, so my ambition exceeded my capital,
Yeah.
and I couldn't let that stop me. And that's when I said, okay, well, I need I need A and B to get C. And so it was, how are you going to pull it together? How are you going to do it? And that's what I did. Now today I call myself a project manager. I just find the project, I find the deal, I put the pieces together, I oversee it to fruition. So now I really call myself a project manager mostly. But it was my ambition. It was my ambition that set the path for all of this, because it exceeded my capital, and I didn't want that to stop me.
And definitely a good project manager. I see that. What's the story behind the No Money Millionaire?
Well, you don't have to have money to buy real estate. You can do it right from where you're at today. And that's what I'm trying to teach people. It doesn't take money. It doesn't take capital. It takes resourcefulness. It takes, ambition, drive, determination, the belief in yourself that you can do it. That's the first hurdle to overcome, is believe in yourself that you can do this. Because if you don't believe it, you'll never get anyone else to believe it.
Absolutely.
So you have to start yourself knowing that you can do this. And so that's why I set out to write the book. I wrote this book because I wish I had this 20 years ago. I wished I had this information laid out like I did. When I wrote the book, I really wrote it to a 20-year younger version of myself. I was just thinking, man, I wished I had this information. And so that's why I put it out, because I didn't want anyone wasting 20 years of their life like I did, going through the mistakes, going through the losses, going through the expensive tuition is what I call it. A very expensive
That's a good
tuition.
one. That's a good one. An expensive tuition. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I think it was all life experience, that strong, that urge to make it, that success that you really want. And I think it really worked in you, and you made it actually. So like you said, again, let's come back to that mindset part. What was the first mindset shift you teach people who feel stuck?
Well, first I try to get them to believe that they can, because, I have my project manager that's with me out here. He's from Detroit. I asked him to come on out. I saw, what he was doing. And I said, why don't you come on out, work with me, and let's try to change your life, because he had written off property ownership. He didn't see that in his future. I don't think any of his family lineage even owned property, He come from a lineage of renters, and that's what he first saw for himself. And he was renting, actually he was staying at a building that I was renting. It was an apartment in the back, and he was staying there. And I was trying to buy the property, but the owner and I could never come to an agreement. And I told, my project manager, I told him, I said, listen, I'm pulling out of this building, and the owner doesn't want to continue renting to you. So he kind of had his rug pulled out from underneath him.
Wow.
He had 4 dogs. He didn't have any savings. His credit's not up to par. So he was going to have a really hard time finding a place to rent. It's hard. I don't even know if it's possible to find a place to rent with 4 dogs, no upfront money, no credit. And so he came to me and said, well, do you have something that I could move into? And I didn't have anything that would work, for his situation. I said, well, stop it. Why don't you do what we're doing? Try to find something. Now you have to, you're forced to do this. And he did. He found a seller finance. He was able to negotiate doing renovations as his upfront down payment. And he was able to move in with no money out of pocket. It was a triplex. 2 units were already rented. 1 was vacant. And then the other 2 that are rented are paying the note. So he's able to live there for free. He got in for doing some renovations, no money out of pocket, and he's on his way now. He's looking at his second property. So it was just that push and the belief that you can do this. It took a little back and forth. He was like, I can't, I don't have this, I don't have that. And I was like, you can. You just have to believe it and find it. And he did. And it was there.
Interesting. Again, it comes back to belief and believing in yourself as well as believing in what you can do. Because again, a big portion of that is materialization. I mean, your mind is your magnet. So if whatever you really think that it's going to happen, and the other thing that they say is, you have whatever your tongue says is very powerful. So if you think positively about something and you really want it, it will happen, because you already are channelizing the universe to make it happen. But if you are negative on the way, you're actually dispersing the energy, and it will not happen, because you've already told the universe, you've sent signals that, I'm not sure about what I really want. So there is, that I'm sure that's the reason why. And also, I think his dogs helped him as well. Those 4 dogs had a mindset, had a really good mindset. They said, you know what, we'll get you a home, because we want one.
There was a couple things that came to mind with what you just said right there. One is something I believe in strongly. If you think you can, or if you think you can't, you're going to be right.
Absolutely.
The second thing that came to mind, and I'll give it a little plug here. It was a book that was life changing for me, and it was written in like the early 1900s, like I don't know, before 1910, I believe. And I found it online for free. It's one of those things, when your mind is the magnet. So when I was ready for it, it came to me. And it teaches you about 2 different mindsets. There's a mindset of the competitive mindset. You've got to get it before somebody else gets it, or you got to you got to be able to do more than, and you got to rush before it's gone. Or the other mindset's the creative mindset. And you don't get into any competition. You only worry about what you're creating for yourself, and then it does come. And that was a big change in my life, and that's why I don't mind to give it a little plug here. It was online for free. It was called The Science of Getting Rich. And it really teaches you about life enrichment. It's not so much about monetary riches, but when you learn to be a creator in this world, you're going to be blessed. Because you're giving.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. It's all about energy again. It's all about energy. How you use that energy to your advantage. And again, like it boils back down to mindset again, because that's how we roll and rumble. So thinking of that, for someone just starting with nothing, what's the first step to getting into real estate investing? Now, since we've been talking about everything with real estate, so let's get into that. What's the first thing that someone needs to do to get into real estate?
Of course. So we've conquered the mindset.
Exactly.
They believe that they're going to do it. They've heard enough. They're like, okay, I'm going to do this.
Yep.
So I released a video recently on YouTube. Mm-hmm. If I was starting from zero today, what would be the first 5 things I would do to get me where I am today?
Okay.
And so the very first thing I would do is I'd start joining real estate investors groups. I'd find them on Facebook. There's one called Bigger Pockets. There are REIA groups on Facebook, on Meetup. I would start getting myself around real estate investor groups. Introducing myself, commenting, interacting with people, networking. That would be the first thing I would do. One of the other things that I would do is I'd start in those groups or elsewhere. I'd start now meeting people who are going to give the loans that I'm going to need. Hard money lenders, DSCR loans. I'd start creating a relationship with them and letting them know what you're into, what you're looking to do, and asking them, what do they need? How do you need to present it to them to be able to get them to fund your deals? So before you even have a deal, you already know what you need to do to be able to get it funded. And then the third piece, I'd get out there networking, Chamber of Commerce groups, other, meetup groups, different stuff. And I'd start looking for capital partners, private money, people who'd want to partner, people who doesn't have time to be in the real estate business, but they want their money in the real estate business.
Oh, okay.
And so those are the three core pieces that you need to be able to put these deals together.
But David, doesn't someone need to have a license or a real estate kind of agency kind of degree or certification or so on and so forth before they can actually jump into this sphere?
That's a
they'd
good
be
question.
questioned.
That's a great question. Now, I've been on many podcasts. This first time I was asked, no, you don't. No, you don't. Because you're going to buy and sell usually through an agent. I have an agent that is priceless to me. I use her with everything I do. Okay. And so when I find a property, I'll run it by her. She does a lot of, the digging up for me. So you align with people, and, you can eventually pursue a real estate license if you want, and you can save yourself a couple points on your buying and selling and earn a little money that way as well. But, I think there's enough here for everybody. And the key part here is to building a solid team and, finding a solid realtor that's going to be a good teammate to have, because you can't do everything, and,
True.
And there's usually room for a solid team. So start building your pieces. And no, you don't need any license or certification. You can just get out there and start going today.
And I like the way when you mentioned solid realtor, because networking is very important. You need to have people that you really, know in the industry. I mean, at least try to get to know them. Create an ambience of relationship, a business relationship, and then trying to, send out a picture that, what you really want to do, and that you want to get into this industry and your business. You're not just, just saying for the sake of it. And of course, like you said, I don't have the capital, I don't have the money right now, but, I want to get into it and take things from there. Talking of which, so if you lost everything today and had to start over from zero, what steps would you take to rebuild?
Well, those first three, but there was a few more that I didn't put in there. It was actually 5 of them. So in between, once you get out there, and this ties into finding your realtor as well. You're going to find your realtor in those real estate investment groups online and whatnot, especially if you're in your local groups. You're going to find your local realtors. And so that's the first step. The second step, in between that and talking to the lenders, I'd create a little bio about myself, a little like 1 page, who I am, what I'm looking for, the properties I'm looking to do, how to contact me, a little picture on your, just, a little bio sheet. And I'd give that out to people. And so they're going to take you a little more credibly when they can see you're presenting yourself that way. True. Instead of just a handshake or maybe you got a business card. But put that together and give it out to everybody you're interacting with, and let them know, this is what I'm trying to do. And you don't have to have experience. People I find in this industry, people want to work together. They're very helpful. They're very friendly. They're very open to meeting with you, giving you their time. That's what I found. That's been my experience so far. And so, when you're getting yourself out there and you're being genuine and you're saying, hey, I'm new and this is what I want to do. This is my interest. This is my goal. Fix and flip. You want to get some apartments, whatever it is. Tell people and have it on your 1 page and give it to everybody you know. So that's in between meeting people and then meeting your lenders, because you're going to need hard money lenders, loans called DSCR loans. You're going to look for seller finance. Those are some of the big points to doing this without any capital of your own. And so when you're talking to them, you're giving them your 1 sheet as well. So you have that there. And then, then you're looking for your capital partners, your private money, people who, like I said, don't have time to be in this business, but they want their money in this business. And you're telling them, you're introducing yourself as, hey, this is what I want to do. And so you can get yourself working together. So again, it's just getting out there, networking, and building these relationships in your team, like I had previously mentioned, and that's what I find. I find now where I've built such a solid team that people want to work with me. People want to say, hey, I want to invest in your projects, this and that. But, once you get going, you're going to, it seems like this is the hard thing to believe. But once you get going, the money's not the problem. The money's there. People, when they know you, when they trust you, the money's there. So I actually have to turn away partners, because I have my original set of partners. Everyone's happy, and I have not exceeded our capabilities to be able to reach out and say, hey, come on, let's bring more people in. So I had to get into where I can teach people and start having some people that I'm showing how to do it, and then try to introduce them or tell them where to find capital for themselves.
Well, I think, David, it's more about you being passionate about your work, and you don't run after the money. Money runs after you.
Yeah.
And you're just focused on what you're doing, and the rest follows. Yeah. And like you mentioned, it's very important with networking and meeting people. But has it been ever difficult? Have you ever had this moment where it's been difficult to meet people, really? And they've given you the time, or like you said, well, there are people who are ready to meet you, but sometimes it becomes very difficult. You specifically want to meet some people, and they just don't have the time, or they play hardball to meet. So have you had that moment?
I guess before I was kind of an introvert. So some of the problems that I had was breaking out of my own shell, getting into the room and networking instead of entering the room, but then really not shaking any hands or not doing anything. And that's something I had to overcome in my own, and so it gets a little easier after you've done it and you kind of come out of your shell. But in the beginning, for me, the hardest part of networking was actually making myself do it. That was one of the harder parts. When you go to these meetup groups, like my local REIA, that's a Real Estate Investors Association, that local group that's on Facebook, well, they have monthly meetings. They have monthly meetups. And so you can go and be part of that. And everybody's networking. And I just found the hard part was to get myself to go and introduce myself and initiate conversations. But, it gets pretty easy when you just say, hey, I'm David. I don't think we've met. And people are like, yeah, hey, how's it going? And when you go, they give you a name tag of who you are and what you're looking for. And so people see it and say, oh, fix and flips. Okay, hey, great. And people want to network. That's why they're there. So you just got to come out of your shell and actually get and start talking to people. And that was the hardest part for me, was myself, more so than others.
So the change in oneself is very important. Actually, I think that's, like you said, that's the hardest part, is to get yourself out there. And really, you have to work on yourself. Only then can you actually start meeting people. Yes, it's also building confidence. It just doesn't come up, instantly. It's like, with experience, meeting people every time. Now, talking of which, many people are afraid of debt. Now, how do you help them reframe that fear and start seeing good debt as a wealth-building tool instead of a burden?
Yeah, there is good debt and there's bad debt. And so everyone's afraid of bad debt. It's a horrible thing. And that's your credit cards, anything that's not making you money. But it is a shift in the mindset to learn that good debt, generates you cash flow. You make money off of debt. And it comes with experience. You have to take that initial first step to actually say, okay, well, I'm gonna do this one and see. And after that, and you see that's working, then it gets a little easier to say, hey, I'm gonna do this one, I'm gonna do this one. And that comes with your research. I lay it out in my book, how you stabilize a property. You go in and you, like I said, you stabilize it, you get it producing a positive cash flow. It's set up on its own. It's kind of now on cruise control. And then, okay, now let's go look at another one. You have to do things smart. You can't get in there and over leverage yourself and make yourself vulnerable, or, just put yourself on thin ice. I get a property, and I've had people or deals come to me, and maybe I'm a little too conservative, but I've had deals come to me that I'm saying, I'm working on this one right now. I have to get this stabilized before I can start dividing my interest and looking into something else. So that's been a big factor in my own, is just making sure what I put the debt on can sustain itself, get on autopilot before I look for something else. So, and I think the comfort level just builds as you do that. As you've done the one, it's performing, you've proven that, okay, this is how it works. But to even get to that first step, you just have to be, read as much as you can.
Absolutely.
Just start becoming familiar with how people are structuring and using, and learn the difference between good debt and bad debt.
True. And another thing that's very important here, like I'm taking tips from you, it's pretty much similar, is, if you're putting your hands into too many things, you won't be able to finish any of it.
Exactly.
So it's not being conservative also. I think it's very strategic. It's very smart that you're actually focusing on something and giving your full to it, and it'll give you results. Because if you spread yourself like an octopus everywhere, you won't be able to, get the results that you want from each of them. So then it's just a waste of time, energy, and I think expenses as well. And you won't get any results from any of it. So that's actually very intelligent. I think that's very smart of you. The other thing is being resourceful. You've built your success on being resourceful rather than rich. What's one practical daily habit or mindset ritual you still use to keep that resourcefulness sharp?
I still network all the time. I don't stop networking. I'm recently joined in more groups and getting out there. I just want to build my network. And I've even said already in this podcast that I'm not even open to taking on more partners or anything. So it's not like I'm trying to network to increase, that, the capital that's available to me. But I'm doing it, I've heard this, and I don't exactly know where to give it credit, but your network is your net worth. And you really have to get out there and know people and know people. And so I still do it, even though I'm busy and, I'm successful at what I'm doing. I still know that I need to get out there, meet new people, introduce myself. And so that's something I still do today.
I sometimes use it the other way around. Your net worth is your network.
Okay, sure. Yeah.
So, exactly.
Yeah.
Now, if you could go back and give your rock bottom self one piece of advice, knowing everything you know today, what would you say to him? Just like I say, you can do this, you can do this, all of these things. Well, I had somebody trying to teach me or tell me. They weren't trying to teach me. There was a real estate opportunity that had came across my way, and there was a couple people involved in it, and they were telling me about it, but it was French. I couldn't understand it. I couldn't understand it. I didn't know enough about what they were saying. I didn't have any experience, and it was contrary to anything that I had grown to believe. And so, I would have just started, if I could today talk to my younger self, I would tell myself to start learning how to do this now, instead of putting it off with my belief that, I turned myself down before I even attempted to try to do something. Somebody told me during the 2007, 2008 bubble, they were like, Dave, why don't you own a home? You could buy a home. And I said, no, I can't. I don't have this. I don't have that. I turned myself down before I even tried. I didn't have to get turned down by a lender. I turned myself down just from my limiting beliefs that I had thought, in myself. So I would just tell myself, earlier on that, stop that, and, and learn this and see people who are doing it and learn how they're doing it and get yourself out there. So David, that's a learning curve, really. I think, that's something that you've said right now. Many a times it's natural as human beings, we tend to turn ourselves down. And the opportunity is knocking, it's right in the face. But we're so naive, or I don't know what word we could use here, is we're so adamant about saying that, it's not possible, because I think it's because of the conditions or the mindset or the situation around, or the people around us, or the society we are in, or the, whatever it is that just, says, you know what, you're not ready for this because you don't have this, and it's not possible. I mean, you can't be rich. When I think of it right now, I can be a millionaire as well. I mean, the thought itself, you're already channelizing that energy and telling yourself you can. But, there is that natural human aspect that at the back that says, you know what, you don't even have $10 in the bank account. Huh? You're going to be a millionaire. That thing is. So that's absolutely brilliant and really impressive that you've made it, and you're teaching other people to be successful, and you're giving those pearls of wisdom, those insights, those things that they can leverage and use, especially from the book that you have written. And I think there's a lot to read, because knowledge is power. And I believe that I'm not the person who likes to eat a half-baked cookie. I want a whole cookie, cooked, baked properly. And when you eat it, it should, crunch in the mouth. And that's it. I'm eating a nice cookie. I mean, I just don't want to be a soggy cookie. I want something that's done well. And I think our listeners would agree as well, because David has written a book as well. And you all need to read that book. Definitely. David, it's available on your website, and people can actually get...
It's on Amazon and Barnes & Noble. But right now, for any of your listeners, I have it available as a free download on my website. You can go to nomoneymillionaire.com, and you'll see book download, and it's available free right now. So there's really no reason not to be able to get this book and learn and then start applying it. You can apply it from any situation you're in today.
Awesome. One more interesting question I have here, particularly. You teach people to leverage other people's money. But what about leveraging other people's time or skills? How can collaboration play a role in building wealth from nothing?
My very first deal, I used, it worked because we were buying it from my father, and he owned his house outright. So he gifted us equity. We used it as a down payment. But I say we because I also needed credit. And so I went to, at that time it was my brother, but to partner in on the deal to bring in the credit aspect that I needed. So it doesn't have to just be capital. You may need people for many different reasons. Credit is one of those. Capital is another. There's the lucky thing about real estate. There's only so many pieces you need to be able to make this happen. So, you get the capital, you get the credit, you're pretty much in there. But, also now if you're doing something larger and, you don't have experience, some of the lenders, they may not want to lend to you because you don't have the experience. Now you can partner with somebody who actually has experience and bring them in, so you can piggyback on that and get the deals funded.
Sweet.
Because so there's many different aspects that you can bring somebody in on the deal. Maybe you have capital. Maybe you have the capital to be able to put down. You don't have the experience. So you can go to somebody that you've met in networking, and you can say, listen, I found this deal. I can come up with the down payment. The lender's willing to fund the deal, but I don't have the credit aspect. Would you want to become part of this deal to see this through? And so that's what the networking's about. And, and it doesn't have to just be capital. It's
like Tetris. You just put the right pieces in the right place. You have all these people who are like fitting in the right place, and you just fill in, and then the line gets, it just disappears because you've got the right stuff there going on for you.
Definitely.
Let's play a passive pathway lightning round with you. Talking of which, so David, if you had to describe your journey from broke to millionaire in just 3 words, what would they be?
It's been a long, hard journey. It's been many mistakes. Many mistakes. it's been a long journey. I learned by mistakes, and in my book, I teach you how to avoid those.
Okay, so it's avoiding the mistakes. Long, hard journey,
Yes.
and learn from the mistakes. Okay.
Yes.
What's
Yes.
one money myth you wish you would disappear forever?
You have to have money to make money. There's other ways. You don't have to have money to make money.
Exactly. Just the way that you do it. No Money Millionaire. You don't have to have money.
Exactly.
Absolutely. Coffee, crypto, or cash? What's your go-to fuel for success?
You said coffee, crypto, or cash? Yeah. So I'm strictly on the cash aspect. I have never ventured into crypto, so I can't say much about crypto. I've watched it. I have two crazy stories. I'll be quick. I don't know where our time is.
No, go for
yet,
it. No problem.
But I always watched and read just offbeat news, and I saw Bitcoin launch. I saw when it was announced Bitcoin did its pizza deal, and I saw that. And I could have easily put in $10, $100, which would have gotten you at that point probably thousands of Bitcoin. I didn't. I didn't. And then the one that everyone around me right now really, really, digs at me about. I had signed up, if you sign up with like Robinhood, they'll give you like a free stock or something like that. I had signed up with something years ago, and they gave me 1/10 of a Bitcoin. And I had one of those, the actual physical wallet that will hold it, and I put it on there, and I have no idea where it is. It's been floating around. Yep, it's 1/10 of a Bitcoin. It's like $10,000 just somewhere, because I never really cared about crypto. And so this little, I'm so mad that I use this little physical wallet. I have no idea where it is. No idea.
It was like a ledger wallet. So basically, you lost your starting capital.
Yeah. So I don't have many good crypto stories. I really don't.
Okay. Well, if someone handed you $10,000 today and said, invest it in your way, what's the first move you'd make?
Well, I'm all about real estate. I'm all about real estate, and that 10,000, I would put it into an account that I would keep for reserves. I would still continue doing what I'm doing because, this no money method, this seems like I'm telling people who are down in their luck, who are, lack of funds and all of this. And I'm trying to help them know that they can do this. But these no money deals, that's how all money's done today. As you go up and up and up, people are doing large $1 million deals. They're not using their own capital, any of these large things, they're not using their own capital. That's just not the way it's done. It's always about leverage, and everyone's bringing in stuff. And so I would put the 10,000 just to have reserves, and I can still continue building like I am.
Awesome. Now, you talked about building. So when you're not building wealth or teaching others, what's your favorite way to unplug and feel rich in the moment?
Financial freedom. I've struggled. I didn't really start pulling this together until I turned about 50. And so most of my life, I was a single parent, and I was in a sales background. And so I went through different jobs. There was one time that my son, had a very important school activity that he was part of, and he wanted me there. And I was faced with, I would lose my job if I went. So I had to either go to my son and watch him, which was very important to him, and lose my job, or go to my job and just not be there for my son. And, I had to keep my job. And so I didn't go there. And so financial freedom to me, what building success and wealth gives me, the ability to be with my family, to be able to do what I want when I want without being faced with, making these important decisions and losing my job and stuff like that. So, I like to read. I've read always, and I still do it today. So I enjoy reading, and I enjoy being able to do what I want when I want with my family. That's what's important.
I just want to reflect on that. Do you regret not going to your son's event by any chance?
I do. I would have loved to have been there for him, but I don't look back on my path and say, oh, this or that, because everything I've been through has got me where I am today. And so if I changed anything, maybe where I'm at today wouldn't be. And my son and I have an amazing relationship. He's done really well.
There you go.
It wasn't crippling. It was sad, but we are where we are, and everybody's happy. So
that's why I asked, because at the end of the day, there's a saying, you don't go back to your regrets.
Yeah.
You only bring back negativity.
Yeah.
So you learn to make your present beautiful. And if you have a fantastic relationship with your son, that's more than sufficient. You've already broken that myth, and you've already broken that regret is it's no use. No need to even think about it, because already the future, your present future, is fantastic, and it's what it is. And so that's amazing. David, it's been amazing. I'm literally in awe, because I've been listening to you, and there's so much insight, so much experience, and I love your mindset. And there's been so much learning from the discussion. And I'm sure the listeners and the audience who are actually, watching or listening to this podcast, they would also get and understand, the depth and the knowledge that you've provided. And of course, when they go back to the book as well, I'm sure they'd go ahead and get a copy of that book. That's available in PDF. Is that correct?
Yes. Yeah. You can download it.
They can download it in PDF, and they can definitely go through the book and get a lot of pearls of wisdom. And start off something with real estate. Start off something with no money. And again, people, it's very important. I'm sure David would agree. It's not something that you're going to become a millionaire overnight. It doesn't work like that. Is that correct?
No, it doesn't work like that. It builds. You become a millionaire in your mind once you know that you can do it. Once you know that you can do it and you've done it, now you just continue and it just develops, and it just gets bigger, and the relationships get better. And the one thing, the hardest part for anybody listening, the hardest part is the first step. Taking the first step. That's the hardest part. What do they say? We have nothing to fear but fear itself. And so, that's the first step. I've read. I still went to my job every day, and I still struggled, and I was reading about real estate, and it took a long time. It took a lot of stuff that got me to where I am today. But I know a lot of people who read the books, who watch the programs, watch the YouTube, but yet still go to their normal jobs, struggle with their bills, and they're comfortable in their comfort zone. They don't want to get uncomfortable. They don't want to take that first step, the unknown. And that's the hardest part, is getting that first foot going.
No, I like the way you said unknown, because fear fears fear as well. It's like, people just don't want to come out of their comfort zone and do something that's different.
Yeah.
Change is very difficult, but you have to. Well, David, one last question. When did you make your first million?
When I was 50. Yeah, I was 50 years old when I got my first $1 million. Yeah.
And how did you feel?
I thought I had the money the rest of my life. I thought, oh, that's it. And then, you learn real quickly that, it's not like I thought it was when I was a kid, when I thought, it's not. But what it was the knowledge that I knew how to do it now. And so, it's been non-stoppable. Once I put all this together and I learned how to do the no money method, it's been nonstop now.
It's awesome. David, it's been a pleasure talking to you. It's been wonderful. We've had a fantastic evening. Do you have any last words or anything that you want to go ahead and say to the audience, or something that you want to put forward from your end?
Sure. Well, always, like I said, so, I lay it out in my book, everything that I do today, it's all in this book. My last project I just closed on was 9 houses. It was for $1.1 million. I did it without a dollar of my own money. All of it's in here. Every step of the way is in this book, but you can download it, you can read it, but you have to apply it. You have to actually take that step. And, if anyone knew where I was from and what I've been through, they would know that they can do it themselves. So just have that faith in yourself, and you can do it. And awesome. I hope I can help in some way.
I'm sure you have. The listeners definitely have a lot to write down and make notes of. That's David Webb from No Money Millionaire. Thank you so much, David. Have a great evening.
Thank you, Nelly. Thank you very much.
Whew, what an incredible journey and perspective. I think today's chat with David really drives home one thing. Financial freedom doesn't begin with your bank account. It begins with your belief system. It's not about having piles of cash. It's about having clarity, courage, and the right strategy. David showed us that wealth isn't reserved for the wealthy. It's built by those who are willing to learn, leverage, and take smart action. David, this conversation was pure gold. Not the kind you'd stash in a vault, but the kind that changes how people think about money forever. Your story is living proof that financial freedom isn't about how much cash you start with. It's about how much courage and creativity you bring to the table. Thank you for being here, for keeping it real, and for reminding our listeners that ordinary people can do extraordinary things, one smart move at a time. And to everyone tuning in, go grab David's free digital book at nomoneymillionaire.com and start mapping your own pathway from broke to breakthrough. Until next time, keep your mindset sharp, your purpose clear, and your coffee strong. Your Ivan chai strong. That's what I like. I'm Nelson, aka Nelly. This is the passive pathway where we turn purpose into profit and dreams into dividends.
Wake up slow, the coffee hot. Money moves while you are not. No more hustle, no more grind. Earn it smart and save some time. Plug it and tune out the noise. Watch your crypto make some noise. Click some streams and big dreams. Living light with passive themes. This the passive pathway. Freedom meets your payday. No boss, no clock, just Wi-Fi latte. We be chillin', we billin', no limits, just willin'. Earn smart each day. On the passive pathway. Sunrise high, the world below. Cash still flows while you let go. No more stress, no more chase. Money works at its own pace. Set it up, then walk away. Watch the numbers grow each day. Hands are free, but pockets full. Passive life so beautiful. This for passive pathway. Freedom meets your payday. No boss, no clock, just Wi-Fi latte. We be chillin', we be billin', no limits, just willin'. Earn it smart each day. On the passive pathway. This the passive hard payday. No boss, no clock, just Wi-Fi latte. We be chillin', we be billin', no limits, just win, earn it smart each day.